Hello, everyone. We are back with the bonus run from Sanjin.
Hello everyone, I'll be running Mass Effect any%. So, the timer kind of starts at a weird spot. I already have a character pre-created here. So the timer typically starts when Shepard, who are gonna play as Shepard, will be taking the first action. So, which is a little bit weird, but we do this because we skip 3 minutes of really boring cutscenes and an entire character creation that nobody cares about when you do a speed run. So, I'm going to say when the timer starts. So I'll give a countdown from 5 to 0 and go. So we'll start in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So I'm gonna start immediately by chucking a grenade down and getting hit by it. So extremely safe because we're doing it in a ship, but we do this because we want to be in combat. So grenades puts us in combat every time we get hit by it, so we get a free boost. So we don't use grenades for damage here. We actually use grenades to put us in combat because otherwise we are going to be walking the whole way and that's kind of slow. Unfortunately though, we have a max of 5 given grenades at any time. You can purchase upgrades to get more, but unfortunately we won't be getting those upgrades just because they're out of the way. So I'll introduce a little bit about Mass Effect, the game itself. So this game is RPG shooter, very RPG heavy shooter game. So we're basically playing as a soldier in command of a ship called the Normandy. His name is Sean Shepard. So basically, we're out here investigating this weird stuff that's going down around in a planet called Eden Prime. So generally, when you create a character, you can select the history, and then so we picked, which gives us like general properties and alignment, which I'll explain later. But we picked the Earthborn and Renegade just because we want as many Renegade points as possible. So our alignment system is not really based on good or evil. It's based on Paragon or Renegade choices. So Paragon is you being nice. Renegade is basically you being rude or like doing something like killing people. But it's not really like good or evil in that sense. It's just, are you a jerk or are you not a jerk type of thing. So we have in this game we have 4 types of weapons here. We actually can choose from a multiple set of classes. So we choose the Vanguard class, which is a hybrid biotic and close range DPS, because Vanguards are in this game are basically really busted. Pistols, which is what we specialize in, deal a ton of damage, and biotics, which is basically the space version of 4 Jedi powers, also have incredibly good stats effects. So that's why we choose Vanguard for our speedrun. So I'm gonna shoot this little weird brain thing to get into combat here.
Are you saying Jedi, like the Force isn't a space trick?
Sure, yeah. What? So basically, we have a set of powers. We have. You see, I put 2 powers here. I put Warp, which basically deals damage over time damage, and Throw, which basically is like Force Push, pretty much. So yeah, we're basically Space Jedi if you wanna put it that way. Also, Rippin' Pepperoni's Jenkins. So we're just gonna cast Warp on these 3 guys, and then I'm actually gonna level up here. So I'm gonna get 3 in Pistols, 3 in Warp, and 1 in Singularity. So I'll explain what Singularity does later, but I'll quickly explain what Marksman does. So what Marksman does is basically increases your accuracy and damage with pistols, and that's going to be the main reason why we use pistols in this speedrun, because it's the easiest way for us to deal a lot of damage. So I'm going to quickly crouch and save here. I'll explain what that does later, but as you see here, that kind of caused me to clip this cliff area. I'm going to do a quick save here, and I'm also I failed that, whoops. I'll try. This one's can be a little tricky to do, especially if you try to go fast. So I'm actually gonna do it the slow ways here. You want to go at the top of this little cliff here. and try to kind of like clip to the top of that. There's like a kind of a small area that you can do it just because it's a little finicky. So I think this should be good. Yep, there we go. So I shoot there to get myself into combat, and then I'll explain that glitch that I just did. So when you crouch in pretty much certain corners, and then you do a quick save and reload your save. The game automatically puts you back into a non-crouch state, and that can cause some unintended effects because it basically also teleports you. So in that case, it teleported me back to the top of the top of that rock, and so I can basically go out of bounds. So it's pretty much the main way that we go out of bounds in Mass Effect. So you'll notice I don't pretty much fatigue myself here because I actually want to constantly run in different spots, basically kind of stagger my run. So I'm going to shoot this thing to get into combat here. I need to dive over that. So by going over this way, you basically skip the whole truckload of plot. Because normally you're supposed to get a whole ton of cutscenes here, you're supposed to get another party member, but here we only have Caden, which is the first party member that we can get. So I'll explain what he does, or what his purpose is a little later. But for now, we're going to kill that, and we're going to save, and then reload the save so that the rest of the monsters spawn, because we actually need to kill the monster, or these Geth here, please. So we have to kill all these enemies in order to proceed. This can get slightly sketchy, just because we're at really low HP. Kaden kind of did some work here. So thankfully, also reloading your autosave, or reloading your save also replenishes your HP as well as your cooldowns. So that's pretty convenient. So like I said, you normally have a second party member, but we only have Caden with us. So Caden is kind of like the jack of all trades support character. So he's a sentinel, and which is a hybrid biotic and tech person. So basically, he's all utility. So he's actually going to be a very useful character early game, just because we kind of want party members with crowd control abilities rather than damage, because your companions actually only do like 50% of your damage. So you'll be doing pretty much all of the damage in the speedrun, and your party members will mainly be there to basically soak hits, or how do I say this? Or basically to soak hits, or kind of just hope they see the correct person. So here it's just pretty much simple. We're just you gotta defuse these bombs because some group of evil dudes are trying to blow up this colony, which is pretty unfortunate. So I'm gonna use a singularity here. So what singularity does, it's kind of like it's an area of effect biotic special ability that basically kind of launches everyone in the air and basically has them closer to you. So I'm gonna use kill these last two, and if I'm fast enough, I can immediately investigate this, and that's Eden Prime. So there's gonna be 3 minutes of cutscenes here in between, but this cutscene is actually pretty funny because if you remember what I said earlier, there's actually supposed to be 2 characters that we had. So we're supposed to have Caden, and we're supposed to have a character named Ashley. So this cutscene's actually pretty funny because this is supposed to be Ashley, but since we never technically got her, she kind of disappears. And Shepard's kind of holding, thin air. So you can actually play as a male or female Shepard. It doesn't really matter in the context of the speedrun. But if you're playing as a female Shepard, it's actually Caden who tries to touch the beacon thingy majigger. But it's pretty funny as a male shepherd because he's basically holding nothing but thin air. But don't worry, you'll be seeing Ashley right after this because she basically just goes out of nowhere. So this game also introduces our main big villain, Saren. So you're gonna see here he ain't too happy that we saved the colony. And yes, all of these people are basically gonna be big antagonists of this. But this speedrun is actually pretty interesting because we basically skip all the boring parts but we still do like a really good mix of combat and glitches. Also, he ain't very happy as you can see. I mean, I don't think he's had his Wheaties. So, honestly, this is my first time playing male shepherd because typically in most speedruns I play a female shepherd, so if you're playing as female shepherd in this cutscene, Caden's the one talking. So to introduce Ashley, Ashley is a soldier, so she's basically your run of the mill like average soldier. Like can specialize in all different weapons. So there's 4 different weapons you can use in this game, but you're only supposed to have speciality in generally 2 or 3 max weapons, except if you're a soldier, I believe. So we're a vanguard, which only gives us proficiency with shotguns and pistols, but we only use pistols in the speedrun because pistols are just much easier to access. And we'll be getting a very good pistol later on. That will basically deal all the damage that we need. So yeah, we have another minute of the cutscenes here. So enjoy more of the cutscene, but I can explain more about some of the abilities. So we'll be getting the so basically how do I say this? So like I said, we choose Vanguard just because biotics are really good in the speedrun, but it's not the same case as some of you might know, the Mass Effect Legendary Edition also just released. So and that speedrun is actually quite a bit different from this one because many of the glitches that you can do in the Legendary Edition or in the regular edition, you can't do it in the regular edition. So for me personally, I find the regular edition much more interesting since the glitches that you can do are much more varied and they skip quite a bit more of the boring content. There are clips that you can do in the Legendary Edition, but you basically don't skip as much as you do in the regular edition. So that's why I choose to speedrun the original. Alright, so after a minute more of cutscenes, we basically landed on the Citadel. So basically that glitch that you saw earlier that I did on Eden Prime will be basically applying that to many of our different planets, so I'm just going to quickly... So if you are wondering why I'm basically spacebar heroing through these cutscenes is really fast, it's because I have a mouse with the free wheel scroll, and that allows me to pretty much and my button to progress through dialogue is basically bound to the mouse up, so that's why I can mash through dialogue incredibly fast. Also say hi to Garrus. I know a lot of people love Garrus, but unfortunately we're not going to be seeing him at all. That's the first and last time you'll be seeing him, because we don't recruit Garrus since he's a little out of the way and we don't need him. So I do another clip here, and I'm going to go to this, and then I'm going to do the same clip, And so far in the story, we're supposed to try to find some sketchy or evidence that Aaron's been doing some real sketchy stuff. And in typical speedrun fashion, we are going to be the ones doing real sketchy stuff to get us where we need. So basically every part of the Citadel area is kind of like connected. So basically, to get to where we need to in the Citadel real quick, we're going to void out. Go into the void here, and this void will eventually take us to the bar, which is where we need to go. So basically, I believe Saren's been trying to strike a deal or sketchy stuff with one of these people named Fist, and then basically we find that out, and then we're assigned to kind of basically beat the crap out of him. So that's why we go all the way down here to get to him pretty quick. I believe there's another quest that you can do with move with Saren, but just to beat him up easily, we're gonna use Marksman and we're gonna use Singularity and shoot him down real quick, just like that. You'll never see him again, clearly. So I'm gonna do another level up here. So I'm gonna learn Adrenaline Burst. I'm gonna learn Barrier here. And put a point and throw. So Barrier is basically like a shield that shields you from gun damage or like any physical damage. And then Adrenaline Burst basically resets all of our cooldowns. So that's also a reason why we want Vanguard. So for safety, I'm gonna do this manual decryption here for some extra weapons to sell. Got some pretty nice weapons. So this is actually a pretty sketchy area to go in because there's a ton of enemies and they deal a lot of damage to you. So you see there, I instantly pretty much went to half health. So basically, I cast Barrier twice, so these guys are also kind of sketchy. Not because they deal a lot of damage, but because this guy here can just sit down and troll. So that's why I intentionally send Caden and Ashley down there. Please die, thank you. So that they can kind of basically lure him out of cover. So that wasn't too bad. So now we're going to basically found out that some Quarian is in danger. Who is this person? So you notice I also point my gun towards her in a specific way. This is because I want to kind of use throw here to kill these two ads as fast as possible. And then hopefully Tally will instantly kill this assassin, but that's not the case, so. But thankfully we have Marksman to take care of these guys really fast. So this is Tally. She's going to be joining us. She's a Quarian. Quarians are basically like another alien race. They basically have to wear these suits because they get sick really easily. So she's the one with the evidence of Saren doing some real sketchy stuff. And then she'll also have to join us because she's on a pilgrimage to kind of like basically prove herself. So we don't really care about who we recruit here because there's no combat. But she will officially join us on our journey of beating the crap out of Saren, and we're going to be doing one of for me, the much harder skips because it's a frame perfect skip. So in a little bit, we'll be watching a really long cutscene that I hope to skip. Because we did a lot of glitches, this cutscene basically doesn't play right. So as you're going to see here, I'm going to be able to save here. So I'm gonna save and reload, and just give me a moment. I'm gonna try and focus because I'm going to try and talk to Anderson and open my map at the same time. Oh, okay. Well, I failed it. Unlucky. So unfortunately, having to watch this loses you 45 seconds. If you were working on a really good run, you would basically reset if you get this cutscene. But you all get to enjoy 45 seconds of a Shepherd becoming the Spectre. So Spectres are kind of basically like the special ops agents. of the Citadel, which comprise of a whole bunch of alien races. So they're basically so basically I guess James Bond, but with in space with a whole bunch of different races. So noticeably, Saren was also a Spectre. That's why we grabbed evidence to strip him of his status, since he's doing bad stuff to him. So yeah, if I had gotten it, I would have been able to open the map as well, and the cutscene would have basically fast forwarded, and would have let me save and reload and basically skip this cutscene that we're playing right now. So a little unfortunate that we didn't get it, but it's not a big deal, especially in a marathon run. In retrospect, it's actually a pretty cool cutscene to see. So after this, we'll be going through. Usually, we have to take a really long way back to the Normandy, but as you're gonna see here in a little bit, we're gonna be incredibly cheap, and we are going to go get to the Normandy in a totally intended way, quote unquote. We're gonna chuck another grenade here because it's kind of a long walk and we're at full speed. So I'm gonna save in this very specific spot here. Okay, well. So I want to hold right here to go to the right, pretty much. After, and then I want to walk over here to this. And then, so I have to walk in that specific direction because Normandy is around here, so. So yes, we've got some pretty special ops powers, so yeah. This throws us all the way to the insides of the Normandy, because if we went in the normal way, we'd have to go to the elevator, which also, incidentally, results in us recruiting two characters that we do not want, Garrus and Rex. And we have to go through a lot of really long, boring elevator sequences that nobody asked about. So now, that we've done the Citadel part, the entire game is pretty much open world, and we can pretty much travel anywhere. So we're basically assigned to get any hints as to what Saren's looking for. So there's 3 main areas that we have to go to. We have to go to Noveria, Pharos, and Therum, and Vermire, which is much later on. So we go to Noveria first, just because Noveria is not really a terrible planet to deal with. Most of the enemies are pretty easy. We kind of want to make money in order to get a certain item that is on Pharos, because that item on Pharos costs 9,375 credits, and especially at lower levels, we don't get a lot of credits, so we kind of need to do one planet in order to attain enough credits, since we're basically skipping all the content. Come on, move. So Noveria is not a terrible planet, because about half the planet that you do with our favorite vehicle, the Mako, and the other half you do with on foot. But the combat's not as bad. If we had technically, Therum is a much shorter planet, but the mobs in there are much tougher, and we're pretty much gonna go through a lot of the game like incredibly underleveled and undergeared, so. Which is also why we play on casual, since it's the lowest difficulty. And honestly, if we had played this on normal difficulty, it's actually pretty difficult, just because we're so underleveled. So I'm going to do another new glitch here. So I'm going to keep constantly spamming switching my weapons. And then, so basically, spamming switching weapons delays that cutscene occurring. And so getting that cutscene doesn't lose you much time, but if you get that skip, it saves you about 5 seconds or so. And yes, there are elevators, which this game is known infamously for, but Novaria and Vermeer have a lot of them. But it's not too bad in the speedrun since we skip a lot of it. So we do grab. So Tally's we grab Tally here, as well as Caden, because Tally has a setup that's actually pretty good for dealing with shields and dealing with machines, basically known as GEF, which are prevalent in this world. So I'm gonna throw my last grenade here, so I can get into here. So normally you're supposed to do a bunch of cutscenes because you're not allowed to access this garage area, but you know, with the power of clips and crouch and saves, we can automatically progress past this barrier. So normally you have to kind of like try to find people who are willing to give you a pass to the garage. Also, this combat's slightly sketchy just because we're really underleveled. So that was actually a pretty good quick kill on this guy, so I'm gonna quickly push this guy. This guy's gonna go for me. I hope. Okay, so thankfully, Tally and Kanan took care of that because that fight can lose you a decent amount of time if they kind of keep jumping around or if they overload your weapons. So I guess one thing that I forgot to mention about weapons is that there's no traditional ammo system in Mass Effect 1. There is one in the second and third installments, but in this game, the ammo system is basically replaced with the heat system. So basically, for all of your weapons, you have a certain amount of shots that you can take consecutively until your weapon overloads. So, for a shotgun, for example, like the low level shotgun, you can only shoot like 3 times, like by spamming the fire button before your weapon overloads. And when it overloads, you can't shoot it for amount of time until the heat goes all the way down again. So that's also why Marksman is extremely good, just because it reduces the heat that's generated from weapons. So yeah, this is the game's our first Mako section here. It's not too bad, since we're just shooting a whole bunch of stuff. We kind of do want to try to shoot or get XP here, because we want to try to get we want to try to hit level 7 before we face a big boss. Because level 7 gives us another really useful biotic ability called Lift. And Lift is just another incredibly busted method of crowd control. I didn't shoot them. So the window to get level 7 is generally pretty generous. So I just want to be able to shoot like most of the turrets that we're going to be seeing here on our way, as well as and that should pretty much get us level 7. So yeah, and if you're wondering, yes, this vehicle is pretty infamous for having really janky physics. And there's going to be a couple of pretty janky tricks that we do in the speedrun with it, but we can't really use much of that, at least for this section. So this one's just generally just like a simple driving around and shooting stuff. So if you're wondering why I basically know where to shoot, it's because these turrets are always spawned in the exact same spots. So the spawns aren't really randomized throughout the speedrun. So you'll notice me like shooting in a very specific area. But generally, like in terms of aiming with your cannon on the Mako, it's much easier to aim when zoomed in because there's no travel distance. So as you see here, when you shoot with outside of your range, there's kind of like a travel distance that you have to account for when shooting with the Mako. And it can be hard if you're not used to it. So personally for me, I just prefer to zoom in and aim. So that's much easier. Unfortunately, I missed that, but it's not a big deal. There's plenty of opportunities to. Yeah, so as you see there, it's kind of hard to aim. I'm just going to try to aim backwards here. So you also have to be careful because if you fall down these cliffs, it's a instant death. So it's not too bad because the path that you walk around is actually pretty generous. We have one last section here. We're gonna hope to shoot this last turret here for some XP. And then that's the end of the Mako section. So I'm gonna bury here because there's a lot of stuff that can kind of hurt, and I'm gonna try to shoot these canisters. I'm gonna kill this Juggernaut ASAP, and I'm gonna try to kill these Krogan ASAP because these Krogan can be really annoying to kill. And let Caden and Tally take care of them. So if I let these Krogan take actions, they kind of hurt. That wasn't pretty bad. Unfortunately, in the garage area, you had to kill them all for the door to be able to open. So that's why I took my time in killing all the enemies in here. And you also notice I'm saving before each elevator because on occasion these elevators in Novaria do glitch and you can soft lock. So that's why I take a little bit of safety. So you also notice I looted one of the upgrade kits. They give you a grenade, which is actually going to be really important throughout the run. Not really for the combat portion, but for a trick that we'll be doing later on. But we kind of want upgrades to be able to upgrade our weapon. So there's certain upgrades that we're looking for. These upgrades are unfortunately RNG, but while we technically don't need them, they make certain bosses much easier to deal with. So in this room, we have these little roaches here. I'm gonna let them blow up on us as fast as we can. So I'm gonna grab that for more items to sell, and then I'm gonna save in this specific spot here, and then we're gonna void all the way to the end. So yeah, this is about like 45 seconds of no music, just because we are in the deep dark void. So normally in this area, you basically have to kind of like try to reactivate all the AI functions because the AI got deactivated due to the troubles with the Arachnite, which are basically those sketchy looking cockroaches. But you basically just get past this part using a clip. So what this clip kind of does, or what this kind of specific instance kind of does, is it warps us all the way to the top, and we basically walk a long way to get to this very specific spot in the bottom, which just happens to be the area that we want to get to next. So if I can get this right. And that takes us all right to Rift Station. So I have one grenade, which isn't too bad. I need a minimum of 4 grenades, but I very much ideally want to have 5 grenades. I know. I ideally want to have 4 grenades, but I can work with 3, but not in very specific cases. So I have to keep mind of my grenade count. So unfortunately, grenade drops are also random in the speedrun. They drop from monsters. It's only guaranteed from upgrade kits that you loot, but we don't loot enough upgrade kits for us to automatically get to 5 every time. So yeah, this is another elevator that can crash. Thankfully, it did not crash. So basically, what we're trying to find on Novaria here is where someone named Matriarch Venezia is. So she's basically one of the bad guys. Asari who is with Saren. So Asaris are basically kind of like blue people. They're a lot like humans. But all of them have this. All of them are able to use biotics, which, as I mentioned earlier, is basically just like base Jedi powers mostly. So, if you're wondering about the lore for biotics, basically, if they're exposed to something called Element Zero, they're able to kind of use those powers. So, I'm gonna hack my way through this door. Typically, since we're not really tech based, you're not supposed to be able to go through there. But we have Callie and Caden and Tally, who both have a hacking ability, so that makes it pretty convenient. And yeah, I just ran through all of those enemies. It can be a little sketchy, but I noticed, especially on casual mode, you get a huge damage reduction when you're at like 10% HP. So it's kind of hard to die. But you can die in certain places. But you can still easily get overwhelmed. I'm gonna grab both of these upgrade kits. Oh, that's really nice, a heatsink 3. I got a really nice pistol. So I want this heatsink, which lets us shoot a lot more, and chemical rounds, which deal magic damage, which is actually really nice. I'm gonna take my time here to learn lift and advanced throw, which will be very useful for this upcoming fight. Please. So I'm gonna do a quick save here because this fight can troll you really, really bad. So this is the Matriarch Benetia fight. We basically have to take care of a lot of ads before we can deal with her directly. So you'll notice I face this very certain way. So I face here because I want to bring Caden and Tally to one side and me to the other side so that we can take care of ads as efficiently as possible. So I'm going to bring them there. I'm going to immediately marksman and kill this Asari here. And then, so basically there's 3 phases of ads that we have to deal with. This next one will be one Asari and 1 Geth. So I'm going to run quickly here and try to throw them. That's a really good phase. So yeah, if I can get that, so yeah, if you time your throw correctly in this spot, and get an instant kill, it's extremely good. So I'm gonna use Singularity on these Geth here, which should take care of them. So these Geth spawning is kind of random. So if I get spawns here, which I didn't, which is really nice. So I finished the fight really fast. So most of the time, Venezia kind of gets to do that. I think one of them's supposed to come up here, so I've had to take care of these last few ads. Thankfully, we can use throw and lift to deal with them. And yeah, sometimes your party members are just incredibly dumb. Come on, Caden, thank you. And that was actually an incredibly good Venezia fight. Like, this fight can troll you really bad. So this is one of the instances where I do not want to mash through these cutscenes, because I need to take a certain choice here, so... But that fight can troll you really bad, because if you get a... So the Asari can also CC you, and if they CC you and the cutscene plays, your run's pretty much dead, because your character basically glitches out if that happens. And if you are caught in a bad spot, Venezia can deal a lot of damage to you. So we get this really fun cutscene. So I'm intentionally gonna kill the Rachni Queen here. You have a choice of either saving it or killing it. So we actually want Renegade points because we gain them naturally through one of the things that we will be doing later on Pharos. And we actually want to do it because we want to skip one of the ending boss fights. The ending boss fights require a high amount of either Paragon or Renegade points, and Renegade points just happen to be the easiest points that you can get. So we basically are being jerks so that we can go fast. Technically, you can do it without the skip, or you don't need to do it technically, but it does come at a cost of a... I have seen people get trolled on that last fight before, so just generally doing this is a much safer choice because you have to do an extra boss fight, and that extra boss fight can kind of troll you. So all in all, this actually was a really good Novaria. So I'm not going to use another grenade here because I don't really need to. And that's it for Novaria. So I'm actually going to spam. You don't notice it right now, but I'm actually going to spam. I'm actually spamming my weapon swap so that I can do a very similar skip to what you saw earlier on Novaria here. Because at the end of each planet, there's basically a cutscene that plays here. And if we spam quick save and then open the menu, we can skip this cutscene. So you can do this on pretty much every single planet, major planet that you do, except for Pharaohs for some reason. So now that we're done with Novaria, our next destination, will be Pharaohs. So Pharaohs is actually a really short planet in the speedrun because there's pretty much no story content. We clip directly to the boss. In a casual playthrough, you would pretty much have to go to another facility. You have to go have a party with the Geth, etc., etc. Help some colonists, but in a speedrun, we go directly to the boss and we don't even care about the colonists. So that's actually what gives us renegade points. So aside from the unfortunate Citadel cutscenes, this speedrun actually hasn't gone too bad so far. But this planet isn't as bad, but pretty much all of this is just one major boss fight that can be very difficult if you're not used to it, or if you haven't had a lot of practice onto it, because basically this next boss fight coming up in a little bit is so we take Ashley here because Tally's not as useful for this part. Tally is a safer option, however, because there are enemies with shields, but it's mostly enemies without shields that you deal with. So this next boss coming up is called the Thorian. It's basically an army of mobs that we had to deal with. My bad, sorry, I had to kind of focus on staying alive there because I kind of messed it up, but basically there's just going to be like a group of general mobs with kind of like mini bosses that we have to deal with. And thankfully we have two of some of the best CCs in Throw and Lift to deal with those little mini bosses, and if those mini bosses have a chance on us, then they hurt a lot, so that's why we kind of do this second, to be able to have access to both forms of crowd control. So I'm going to do the same clip here with crouching. And we're basically at the end of the planet, so Pharaohs are just basically facing the big boss. But I am going to do some level ups here, because we're a little bit higher level now. So I'm going to get a advanced marksman here. I'm going to get advanced warp. I'm going to put 1 point of vanguard for a little bit of extra damage. So this is so the Thorian is basically comprises of a bunch of nodes that we have to deal with. These nodes actually, for the most part, have pretty high defense. So that's why we wanted to level advanced warp, because what warp also does is it reduces your enemy defenses. And adrenaline's going to come in very useful here as well to deal with. Basically, there's going to be a lot of these little Asari clones that we have to CC. We're going to immediately yeet this Asari out of here. And then I'm going to kill these two Thorians to get the door open here. I'm going to cast Warp on this node, and I'm going to immediately run up. And hopefully Ashley and Kaden can really deal some damage to these random Thorians here. Not too bad. So there's a total of, I think, 7 notes that we have to deal with. I I usually don't count. I usually just count by the number of Asari, just like kind of do a mental check of the rotation that we have to do. But here's the second Asari here that we have to face, so I'm going to use a throw on them, and my aim is basically just to kill them as fast as possible, because if you leave them alive, they're very annoying to deal with. They deal a lot of damage, and these guys are also very annoying. They have a spit attack, as well as their melee attack, and their spit attack deals a ton of damage to you. So as you see here, I pretty much basically went to like no HP at all. The also complicated thing about this is I have to keep track of my teammates' HP, because if they're at like no HP, it's really bad as well. I'm gonna throw here on the Asari Clone to immediately kill them. I'm gonna reset my charge here. I'm gonna kill all of these because basically the more creepers that we kill, the less defense that it has. So we have to kill a couple here. All right. So this Asari here can kind of troll you because it can aim in the wrong place, and if it misses, then you kind of have to basically improvise from there, because generally they'll try to CC you straight up from there. So I also want to try to melee these Thorian creepers, because meleeing them knocks them down and deals some decent damage and just prevents them from using attacks. So this one's generally the longest one, because you have to wait for warp and marksman to go back on cooldown. So I'm gonna use lift on this Asari clone here to quickly kill them, and thankfully this one doesn't have that much defenses, so we can just immediately shoot this Thorian node. So this one's probably the most complicated to deal with, just because there's these guys that can come up here, as well as the Asari that can sneak out of nowhere. So yeah, as you see here, I got thrown down, and you can easily get overwhelmed, as you saw there. Gee. Please do something. Yeah, if you die here, it's kind of bad. So yeah, you can easily get caught there in a really, really bad position. Also, unfortunately, Caden kind of died, but at this point, we kind of don't need him alive, so it's not too bad that he died. So yeah, that was pretty sketchy last part, but we're kind of out of the woodworks now. So I'm gonna bait this Asari out. So normally I would have my things just recharge here, but since I took a while here, I do have lift for this. So I'm just gonna use all of my CC that I have available. And once you kill it, that's the last Thorian fight. Or that's the once you kill the node, that's basically it for the fight. That was a little bit sketchy, especially towards the end, but we didn't die. Like, if you play really careful, it's just generally hard to die. I was just basically sitting there at, like, no HP for the longest time. So we found out the Thorian's kind of being controlled by the Sasari here. And they've been basically kind of, like, terrorizing this colony of people and basically indoctrinating them. And yes, this cutscene that you're about to see is very similar to the one that you saw back on Eden Prime. It just becomes more and more clear as you go through. But this fight does get a decent bit easier. This fight is actually a little bit harder if you don't have good weapons or like a heat sink, because you basically just don't deal that much. You don't deal a lot of damage, but it's still very possible to get good times on this fight with only like your most basic weapons. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed the very corny cutscene, and we are basically done with Pharaohs. So you're also supposed to save these members, but you know, because of the way we got in, it basically replaced some old cutscene. So I'm gonna save here before I talk to Ledra, because there's a 50-50 chance I have the weapon I want here, and I do indeed have the weapon I want. So I'm just gonna sell everything I have here, and then I can buy this. So this is basically why we use pistols here. This weapon is very busted. Weapon that you can get very early on. I threw a grenade there. It's kind of a bad idea to throw a grenade, but it should be fine. As you see here, we're going to be doing a lot more damage with this weapon. So generally, it would take like 4, 5, or 6 hits, but as you see here, I'm literally 2 hitting these Geth. I'm just going to beat them up for more XP, because why not? And we're at the end of Pharaohs, pretty much. So I'm intentionally not doing the cutscene skip here, because it's very hard to skip the cutscene. It's a very low frame to skip it, and you don't lose that much time anyways. So once we complete 2 of these planets, we unlock the ability to go to Vermeer, which is the other last plot planet that we have to do, but we're not really going to go there yet, since we don't really need to, and we're going to be grabbing one last party member that is mandatory for the speedrun. So basically, we were asked to go find someone that knows a lot about these Protheans, which is like this weird group of people that were there before us, or before like the current time. So someone a Nasari named Liara is basically researching them, and we basically go try to find her and get her help to find out what all this mess is about. So the fun thing about Therum is that it's literally every single part of it is all Mako, almost. So we get to have a lot of fun here dealing with Mako tricks, because you can easily lose like minutes doing these tricks if you just aren't very precise with them, because they are somewhat precise tricks. They're not as bad as the endgame trick that I'll elaborate on later, but it is still pretty bad, especially for people who are new to the speedrun. I'm gonna do a cool kids jump here. I'm gonna do a quick save though, just in case. I've actually never failed this in a run before, but you know, better safe than sorry. So we can basically jump across these little gaps here. If you touch the lava, you die, but shouldn't be a problem, right? So there's gonna be a couple tricks that we're gonna be doing with the Mako here. We're gonna be trying to jump up. We're basically gonna be clipping through unintended areas. With it. We're gonna be jumping through places that we shouldn't be jumping through, so. So, so I just need a minute to focus, because this is somewhat of a precise trick, and it's very easy to mess up if I don't have momentum. Ah, first try. Actually, maybe. This trick can be a little pretty jank, so come on, Mako, please. Alright, well, we eventually made it through. Yeah, that was a little sketchy, but bring Kaden and Tally here. So that's part 1 of the hard trick that we get to do. Oh, that's not good. Well, I think it'll be okay. It's a little sketchy, but we can manage. So unfortunately, I took a ton of damage having to get through there, which kind of sucks, but we're gonna be shooting these things so that they don't hit us. Eventually, these shields will recharge, but I'm gonna have to be a little careful going through the second section here, because if you die in the Mako, it's an actual death, so please don't hit me. Thank you. So yeah, a lot of this is driving it around in the Mako, and mostly there's gonna be a little bit of parts where we go on foot here, but all right, very nice. We got a grenade. That's pretty important. So I won't be using my grenades here because, well, I want to have, for safety, 5 grenades pretty much for the end game. Oh, pretty much, yeah, a lot of this is basically just like driving around with the Mako. Shoot this guy here. So yeah, there's a lot of GIF on this planet, which is why we bring Kaden and Tally. It honestly doesn't matter who you take for this, since you don't do that much on-foot combat segments. But we do want Shepard to actually have good weapons, because the final combat segment on foot is actually pretty difficult, especially if you do the planet first, so. Alright, so we're coming up to hard trick number 2 here. I'm just gonna kill these 3 Geth here. So basically, I need to clip to, I want to be entering, so you're intended to go on here on foot, but we want to be entering here with the Mako. So there's this little gap here, and if I align correctly here, I can enter in like this with the Mako. So you're not intended to be in here with the Mako, haha. So we want to go in here with the Mako because we can glitch out a certain cutscene here. And if we were to be doing this casually, oh please no. Also, sometimes the Mako likes to be very jank here, so I'm just gonna be a little careful. Because you can actually die here. There's a lot of, the stuff here on foot kind of hurts, so. We're going through here. So that wasn't too bad. I did not die, which is the most important part. So normally you'd have to face a whole bunch of Geth here. They're pretty tanky, they deal a lot of damage, and they're a nuisance, especially if you, even though you have a really good weapon. But because we entered in here through the Mako, which is totally unintended, the AI here is going to break, pretty much. And as you see here in a second, I'm gonna hit that for a little damage because I would like some extra XP. They're all basically sitting ducks, kind of. So we only need to kill that giant Geth armature to proceed. And use that to replenish, or to have marksmen on ready here. Because there's gonna be 3 mobs that I want to quickly kill so I can save here. We're gonna kill these 3 Geth here, and normally You have to go through a whole series of elevators to get to the bottom, but we're just gonna clip directly to the bottom here, because we're gamers. I'm gonna shoot this barrel to get into combat here. I'm sending my squad mates there, because if you actually trigger this and then you talk to your squad mates, the cutscene immediately starts. If you didn't do that, you'd have to wait a couple seconds, so saves a little bit of time.
Can you hear me?
So yeah, this is the person we were looking for. We kind of got to save them because they got themselves trapped. Not very gamery of Liara. So we have to kill these 4 Geth here, which is easy enough to kill, especially because we have this really nice weapon. Please die. Thank you. And we have to do this puzzle here. So this puzzle is actually not randomized if you play on console, but it's completely random if you play on PC. Hey, that wasn't too bad. So, even though we kind of locked the bottom there, you're supposed to kind of like go around to get Liara, but like I said, we're gamers. We can just easily kind of clip our way through force field, so I'm gonna crouch and make a save here. And I'm gonna load and hold W to go forward. And we basically rescue Liara, so there's only one more fight sequence that we have to do here. It's actually pretty easy, especially now that we have a good weapon. But if we didn't have a good weapon, this segment here would be significantly harder. Also, honestly, I find this dialogue that Shepard says pretty funny, so I will stay silent for a second here. It's more funny if you're a femme Shep, but you know. Male Shep's also pretty funny, so we just have to kill these Geth here. So this is probably the loudest point of the speeder, because a lot of these cutscenes, for some reason, they still play at a full volume, but thankfully you all don't have to deal with it because I intentionally lowered the Mass Effect's volume in the Windows audio all the way down. But basically, after they rescue Liara, this whole place collapses down on them. So, in a second here, I do have to get ready for another weapon swap skip. And so yeah, that's 3 out of 4 main planets done. To get ready on my weapon swapping here. If I can skip this. So if I didn't skip this cutscene, I would have to watch a minute-long cutscene where Liara basically goes into our minds and basically plays that vision that we saw again. And yeah, we really don't want to see that. Just because it wastes a lot of time. And yeah, we're off to our final, I guess our final planet that we can visit before the endgame planet. So Vermeer is actually pretty simple. Technically, we could have done it before we got Liara, but we do want a second party member at the end. And it honestly doesn't really matter though, so. We picked Kaden and Liara here because we actually like biotics on our team. CC is generally very important. Not as important for the end bosses because we don't, because the end boss has certain immunities that, unfortunately, Kaden and Liara aren't able to deal with. So I have 4 grenades, which is actually really good. But I still won't be using an extra grenade here, unless I get a 5th one very early. So this first half is pretty much all Mako movement, for the most part. So we don't really care much about XP anymore, since we have to since we basically have everything we wanted, but the route before this kind of required more EXP because we wanted to delay getting Liara until all the way until the final planet Ilos, because we used to do something called the singularity skip. So we basically, the singularity skip is where we get Liara. We teach her master singularity because she's the only party member that has singularity available to her, and we basically use it to basically lift us up to a certain place on Ilos for us to be able to skip going down an elevator. But now we pretty much have completely skipped that part, so this lets us get Liara very early, or just lets us flat out grab Liara. But I'm going to be explaining probably the hardest and most inconsistent trick to do, and that's called the Mako skip. So later on, you'll be seeing later on that basically I'm going to be getting one of my party members killed with grenades, and then basically when they stand up after we get out of combat, the Mako will basically go haywire, and that gives us the ability to possibly clip through doors. And it's a pretty inconsistent, but it's still going to be extremely useful skills. It basically skips a very huge part of Ilos. So I parked the Mako in a very specific spot because I want to be able to access it from above. So right here. So once we disable these controls here, we can just directly get to the Mako from the top of these ledges here instead of having to walk all the way around. Why they don't have you jump down this ledge, we'll never know, I suppose. So I'm just going to kill these two, and then I'm going to park my Mako again in a pretty specific spot. So I'm going to park Kaden and Liara here, because there's a possibility they just go up and kill everything. Which is pretty annoying, because then that puts us out of combat. Kill one of these Geth here. So these destroyers like to go near you, and when they go near you, they melee you for a lot of damage, so that's why we use biotics, or throw and lift there. So that we don't get bopped in the face with a shotgun. It hurts. So yeah, that's pretty much the ending of the Mako segment here. We're gonna do a decent bit of a little bit more driving here, and then we had to make one of the biggest major plot points. Spoilers that you're gonna be seeing here soon. So the major plot point is that we had to basically one of our party members will die, and they'll be either Kaden or Ashley, depending on your choices. So basically, the way the speedrun is, we always want to save whoever doesn't get chosen here. So honestly, it doesn't matter whoever you choose here, because Tali and Liara do perfectly fine. But you know, I'm a Kaden fangirl, so I'm actually gonna send Ashley out here. So I'm sorry, Ashley fans, but I'm a big Kaden fangirl, so.
You all know the mission and what is at stake.
But in terms of party members, like, it doesn't really matter that much. Kaden actually is more useful than Tali in the last bit. Or arguably, Kaden is slightly more useful than Liara for the final boss, because he has access to Overload, which deals a lot of damage to shields. But Liara doesn't, even though she can learn Overload, but she isn't high enough level in the speedrun to learn it. So technically, Kaden and Tali are your best party members to bring for the final boss, since the final boss has quite a bit of shields. And since our character doesn't really have any quick ways to deal with enemies with lots of shields.
Chief Williams, with me.
So yeah, this is going to be quite a bit of running around. Normally, and I guess I think in the casual playthrough you try to make life easier, but we're not going to make life easier for our folks because we're trying to go fast, you know. I'm gonna use marksman because the Skeff Destroyer can hurt. I'm gonna leave that buddy alive here, but Kate and Lee already took care of them. So a lot of this is pretty much just pretty much managing your stamina, killing enemies. So this console here can be really annoying to kind of interact with, but if you go on a specific spot here, think like this, you can very easily interact with it like that. I shoot that. I'm gonna shoot these two here, who basically gets 2 hit. I'm gonna throw that juggernaut to the ground so that they don't deal a lot of damage to us. Shoot these 2 other guys here. So I'm gonna intentionally put Kate and Liara there. So for this part, we only have to ideally kill these 2 here. And this husk here. And we can immediately open the door. If we're really slow on doing that, the rest of the husk can spawn and we basically have to kill them all. But if you kill all of them fast enough, you don't have to deal with that. So you also have to kind of, you have to go through and lower the straw bridge, but we're just gonna walk on thin air because we're badass like that. We're specters. We don't follow rules. So yeah, ideally here I would have a 5th grenade to throw here, but unfortunately I don't have a grenade to throw here, so I just have to walk this. So using a grenade with the most ideal sprint saves you about generally like 5 seconds. It's not the end of the world, but it's still just very nice to be able to have that free time save whenever you can, but sometimes it just do be that way. So I'm going to shoot there to get into combat, and I'm going to try to quickly take care of these Geffs here. They can do a decent amount of damage. As well as these rocket drones here. So I'm actually hoping here. So now I'm going to loot this. I'm going to hope here for tungsten rounds, because we're basically going to be facing all synthetic enemies here. Unfortunately, we don't have any, but I guess we have polonium rounds, which are basically fully upgraded chemical rounds. So we'll just stick with this. It's not the worst, but ideally you want tungsten rounds, because tungsten rounds deal bonus damage to synthetics. And basically all the enemies that we're dealing with from here are synthetics. Of course, this game gives me a 5th grenade when I don't need it. Classic. I'll just keep that grenade for later. Alrighty, so we just have to open this door. Don't you fly up, you silly little Geff. So this is the part where your second person goes, and we say the person here just because we can very easily make our way here, as you're going to see later on, with one of our clips. If we save the other person, we'd have to basically manually run the other way all the way to them, and that takes a decent bit longer, so we don't want to do that. Also, fun fact, I've soft locked here once by accidentally talking to one of them before this cutscene triggers. You can soft lock in really weird ways in this game. So yeah, your second human character here has to set up the bomb here, so they're unavailable. But thankfully, we have Tally and Liara as our only two party members, so we can just grab them. So I'm gonna do our final skill menu here. So this is the reason why we took went renegade, so we get 9 intimidate. Get advanced lift here. So 9 intimidate allows us to do a special dialogue with Saren coming up here. No, you don't. Thank you very much. So that dialogue we're going to take is going to let us, if we pick correctly, skip the fight with Saren. That we normally would have to do at the end, because there's kind of like 2 parts to that final boss. And we basically effectively skip the first part. So the person that we want to save is always on the left dialogue here. So I'm going to take this slowly here.
Heads up, though. It's all negative. Yes, Clem.
And then, so since we saved Caden, he's going to be just right here, and we can just directly clip on over to here. Have to be a little careful, because you can easily fall off here. And because we got here the unintended way, these Geth have basically no AI to them, so it's just free shooting on them. Oh, interesting. Normally you can play music here, but
We can't hold them. Damn it.
I guess it just happens to be that the music did not play.
Cover your...
But at least you get to hear this very epic music. So I had to pick this very specific dialogue with Saren here that can unlock. So basically we're gonna tell Saren, he's basically getting ratted on, please use warp, thank you. Oh, this is a quick fight. And that's Vermeer. So Saren doesn't have a lot of HP, especially because you can use the giant canisters to quickly deal a lot of damage to him. He intentionally flies over those canisters too, so makes it quite a bit easier. So I already had to start this weapon swapping glitch, because the timing for it has to be quite a bit, and as you see here, pretty cool cutscene. With Saren getting Falcon Punch. Only boomers would know that.
Alright, everybody, hang on.
So just give me a moment to focus here. Alrighty, so once we get to the dock here, I'm gonna have to immediately focus on spamming weapon swap, because there's gonna be another skip that ideally I want to do. It doesn't lose you that much time if you don't get it, but it's a little annoying if you lose a couple seconds if you don't get it. And it's a little bit of a hard glitch to do. So we want to spam weapon swap here. If we get this correctly. Oh, we didn't get it correctly, but basically, if we had gotten it correctly, we can basically skip this unskippable dialogue.
Politics, Commander. You've done your job, now let me do mine. We've locked out all the...
So yeah, basically, what happened here is that we've got all this evidence that these people called the Reapers are real.
Equalizing interior pressure.
And basically the council doesn't believe us, and they basically want to lock us down here, but you know, we've got we are gamers, so we are going to cheat back to the Normandy. So you'll notice here I saved, or I did an intentional save here, or difficulty change, because we actually want to be on hardcore for this. that we can intentionally take more damage. And I also did a safety save because if you fail this, your run's kind of dead. So I'm going to make a save here. I don't need to crouch for this. I'm just going to load the save and put my hands off, and this walking should take us automatically to the Normandy. So if you went there normally, you'd have to go through a whole bunch of stuff on Citadel. You would get banned from the Citadel until the end game, but we're gamers. We've got secret tricks up our sleeves. We're better than even the Spectres, so I'm gonna go to Ilos here. So Ilos is the final planet before basically the end game planet. Once you go to Ilos, you basically can't go back. So I'm actually gonna, since I have 5 grenades, I'm actually gonna take both Caden and Tally. You can get, so like I mentioned before, we want to have one of our party members die, and Liara happens to have the lowest HP, but Caden has just as low HP. Has slightly more HP than Liara, but still very easy to kill him. It just takes a little while longer. But I do want to bring Caden and Tally just to make the final fight a little safer, because both of them have access to Overload, which deals a lot of damage to shields, which my character can't deal with very quickly. So you'll notice I also turn on autosave because I need a safety net for this, because there's a small chance that some of the gift here that I'll have to kill get glitched, and if they get glitched, it's not a great time. So normally here, you'd have to basically talk to some conduit just to get through the door with the Mako, but we're just going to be entering here directly with the Mako. And yeah, I probably won't be talking as much on this planet because this does require me to focus. So I'm going to... So you also notice my party members aren't doing anything now, because I actually want them to only not use their abilities. So we're going to throw Caden into the fire here. And then I'm going to wait till he's almost dead to get in to the Mako. Ideally, I want him as low HP as possible. Alright, so that's actually really good. So I'm going to position the Mako in a pretty specific spot here. So actually, a little closer to the door here. So I want to position the Mako such that its back is to this door here, but not like directly against the door here. So I'm going to make a manual save here, because we are going to get Caden killed a lot. So if you hate Caden, I hope you enjoy so. And get Caden killed here, and you need to wait until Caden stands up. I think that was it. Actually, it might not be it. Check. Because I might have been stuck in the middle here. Yeah. Yeah, so basically, as you saw here, if I enter the Mako just as my dead party member stands up. Whoops. I did not mean to do that, but it doesn't really matter. So yeah, where the Mako goes is kind of random, unfortunately. So sometimes it can get stuck here, which is really unfortunate. Please go in. I'll wait a couple seconds more before I reload my save. You have really limited control over it. I mean, you can do this to kind of like reset its physics, but Mako physics is basically Mako physics. Let's try again here. Normally you could get this within like 2 or 3 tries, so kind of bad RNG. But generally, if you fail this, you kind of have to kind of reposition yourself, because where the Mako kind of generally eats itself to is loosely based on where you enter the Mako from. Because what kind of happens is that the Mako kind of attaches your dead party member kind of attaches to the Mako, and that's what causes the Mako to go real haywire. Really, actually, this is a pretty interesting area to get into, but I don't think that's it, Chief. So yeah, it's pretty rare that this glitch goes that haywire. So give me a moment to focus. Alright, maybe that was good. I don't know. Oh, okay, that was not good still. Yeah, normally this glitch does not fail in that kind of fashion. Come on. If that wasn't enough, there's an even more inconsistent glitch coming up here. Alright, that should be good. I think. Yeah. So that basically skips having to go down a really long elevator.
I thought Sarah would have set some kind of trap or ambush for us. They must have been in too much of a hurry.
Or we just haven't run into it yet.
So yeah, it basically skips having to go down. We have to talk to something to open this giant door. Or like I think a Prothean AI or something like that to open the giant door. But if you thought this wasn't enough, well, I've got news for you.
What are all those things on the wall? Some kind of containers?
So there's going to be an even more inconsistent skip, and I actually want to try and show off the more cooler skip, which ironically is also even more inconsistent than this one.
And so is anyone inside.
Very nice. I usually am not able to kill them, but I got him that time.
There's nothing left.
So there's two ways that I can kind of clip through this. You can go down the elevator and talk to the AI here, but we are gamers. We are going to try to clip through it because if we get this first try, it saves us 40 seconds, which is actually quite a bit. So I'm going to position the Mako here,
It's a trap. Sarah must have set an ambush.
and I'm going to move here.
Behind us.
I'm going to do a manual save, so if I throw a grenade in the water, the grenade mechanics just don't register, so I'm going to get Kaden killed here again, part 2. And hopefully I can show off the really cool glitch to you guys. So I either want to clip to the other side of that barrier, or I want to go all the way to the top, which takes a little bit more time and it's a little bit more difficult, so... So I got in through there first try, actually. But I'm just gonna try for the better skip. Which I don't think this one's it. And I'm actually gonna load this and make an autosave. If we can't get it within like a couple minutes though, I will just we will just take this one. Getting this one first try saves you like 40 seconds, but getting the other one saves you over a minute and 40 seconds. So that's the one I ideally want to get and show off just because it looks much cooler. I really don't have any saves here. I'd probably have to drive through there again. Nope. Okay. So this one's a lot harder because like basically the Mako just likes to do what you don't want. So I'm gonna try and kind of buffer the physics just so I can get up here. Come on, Mako, you can do it. You're almost there, buddy. So I want to get to the middle of that place there, but... And unfortunately, I kind of do have limited time, because eventually this Mako's going to blow up and die, so I think... No, that's not it. That's the bottom part. Actually, that might be it. Yeah, that's definitely it. Alright, cool. So you can clip here. I think that was it. Oh, unfortunately, that was not it. I think I didn't have enough height over it, so... Alright, we'll try one more time, and if not, we'll just do the alternate. Even though we have plenty of time, I don't want to spend 10 minutes here. Seems like I will get another decent chance at this. Maybe. Alright, well, that wasn't very ideal. Alright, actually, I lied. One more chance at this. And yes, this is the place where a lot of very top-end runs go to die. Just because this glitch is wildly inconsistent. Is the Mako gonna cooperate with me? Come on. It's a little bit more. Is that? No, that's not it. Yeah, it's very... You basically can't really control where the Mako will go, so... If I don't get this, then I'll just have to stick with the less cool version. Which it looks like I'll be doing, because the Mako's gonna go in the middle of nowhere, so that's unfortunate. That's fine, though. So had I gotten the better skip, I can skip doing this entire tunnel run here, but... Sometimes the glitch just does not cooperate, so... We switch back to casual here, just because we don't want to deal with really difficult enemies. The other reason why you want to stay on hardcore here was that you want to, you want Kaden to, or whoever you killed, to stay at low HP. So that you can chuck more grenades and kill them, pretty much. So this is gonna be... basically about a 2-minute long tunnel run. If you had gotten the other one, you basically can jump and skip all the way to the ending part of Ilo, so... All of this is basically very fun Mako driving. So I guess while we're at it, I was going to, so I was mentally, with this bonus run, have like an incentive if we had gotten over $3,000, I would have done a very meme incentive, because I believe for pretty much all the ending runs that we've done, we've had a head cannon section of something. So Sparkle did a head cannon of why Jasmine had her certain Pokemon, and May did a head cannon of the Let's Go and just general Pokemon universe in the speedrun setting. And so now, to put with the tradition of epic memes, or bad memes I should say, I'm going to have a headcanon of a potential crossover between Mass Effect and Pokemon. Which depending on how you see it, may or may not be cringe, but basically my headcanon for a Mass Effect and Pokemon crossover is, if you remember from the other day, May talked about ultra wormholes that take you to basically a certain part of the beginning every time you reset, but with the Mass Effect and Pokemon crossover, there'd basically be a ultra wormhole that takes you to the Mass Effect universe, and so basically Arceus went through the ultra wormhole to the Mass Effect universe and basically created the universe, and then had Dialga and Palkia create all the stuff. So Dialga created time and all that fun stuff. Palkia created space, as well as all the fun little master relays that take you around space. And Arceus created people, so Arceus created the Protheans, which was the race that was supposed to come before all the rest of the other races. So the Protheans kind of lived, you know. They did their thing until the Reapers, led by the evil Pokemon Giratina, basically messed up the universe and killed and got all the Protheans killed. So big F's to them. But in the process, Arceus did create a bunch of various Pokemon to help out various different races, like the humans, the Sauri, the Turians, etc. And so, if we did Mass Effect 1 in a Pokemon crossover, we would have basically our characters along with their given Pokemon. So in the crossover universe, Saren, along with his fellow Pokemon Tyranitar, has amassed an army of Geth, which are created by the Corians. But these Geth are all basically different Rotom forms that have morphed into various species of various types of Geth. So basically, Geth equals a lot of different Rotoms. So Saren basically has an army of Rotoms, an army of Ultra Beast on the side. So you basically try to kind of like rule the world. And us, with our various Pokemon, are assigned to save it. So I had a meme headcanon of which Pokemon each character would have. So our hero Sean Bruh, shout out to Sparkle Lantern, will be has his trusty lantern with him. And then he has his other ragtag meme crew of Caden, who has a Word Deer. If you are not in the know, Word Deer is one of the new Pokemon appearing in Pokemon Legends Arceus. Word Deer is a Moose Pokemon, normal and Psychic type. Caden's from Canada, by the way, so very fitting Pokemon for him. Ashley, I think, would have a Breloom, because she's kind of like the fighter type. I think it fits her pretty well. Tally would have a Magnemite, so hear me out. Tally has a Magnemite because, you know, she's on her journey. The pilgrimage is basically her journey to evolve her Magnemite eventually into a Magnezone. And then lastly, Liara has a Gardevoir because, you know, Biotics, Psychic type. She's very graceful. Gardevoir pretty much totally fits the bill. And Sean Brush Shepherd and his ragtag crew, basically a ragtag crew of crew members and Pokemon, go out to save the world from Saren and the evil army of Rotom Geth and his Ultra Beast army. So there's your meme headcanon Mass Effect TED Talk.
I was afraid. You've lost. You survived.
Oh yeah, so while I was saying that, that's why we take our time through this dialogue, because yeah, we basically convinced Saren to commit suicide. That skips a fight that we have to do with Saren. It's not that bad because we actually do a lot of damage to Saren, but he can troll you because he rides around on his good old surfboard. And then we're gonna save the council because this cutscene is, I think, about 5 to 10 seconds faster than if you dip to the council. So that's the one time we're gonna be nice.
Save the Destiny Ascension.
So I hope you all enjoyed my TED Talk on a very meme Mass Effect and Pokemon crossover. Please don't write fanfiction about this. It's probably gonna be a big meme. I'm sure you can probably expand it more, but please keep well, I guess if you follow the plot of Wormholes and Arceus, it would totally make sense.
All cleared. The Citadel's opening.
But yeah, there's 2 minutes of cuts. There's like 1 or 2 minutes, couple minutes, or minute and a half of cutscenes here that play after this before we face the final boss.
Make sure he's dead.
Basically, also what happened here is, before I was explaining my meme plot, the Reapers with Saren have invaded, the Citadel, so that big, little cockroach thing you see there is called Sovereign. It's trying to kind of destroy the Citadel. And we basically went through that mass relay all the way to the Citadel to basically stop his plans or Saren's plans for world domination. So spoilers, Saren gets revived by, or getified, and he's gonna be the true final boss. So this fight isn't too bad, but if I let him take an action, he can troll you really bad, so I'm actually going to try to focus for this fight, but basically for this fight, we want to use lift and throw to CC him as much as possible, so I'm going to be starting out by trying to use lift on him, because if I don't use lift on him on time, then he's going to overload my weapons, and that's going to be really bad. I'm gonna overload him. I'm gonna use warp to lower his defenses, and I'm gonna use marksman immediately. So once he stands up, I'm gonna use throw on him again. And I don't deal that as much damage, so hopefully he doesn't troll me here. Oh, he went to troll Kaden instead, which I'll totally take that. So once part 1 is done, this cutscene plays, which is actually kind of convenient because during this time our biotic powers will recover here. And so this is gonna be part 2. So hopefully, I'm just going to repeat the combo, and hopefully that'll be it. But time ends when we get the last hit on Saren here, so just get ready on time.
Negative. This is our
So basically, we're going to rehash what we're doing here, so I'm going to lift him up in the air.
the cost.
Throw him on the ground again. I'm going to use Adrenaline here. Lift him up again, so time's coming up very soon. Because I got a perfect combo, and time. So, I spent quite a bit of time on Ilos, but hopefully that wasn't too much overestimate.
It was about 10 seconds overestimate. Sanjan, I'm afraid you're fired.